This drag queen story time was the first time I've gotten death threats since I was in high school, and it took me to a really dark place. It reminded me of how I felt all those years ago. And, when you're 37, you never imagine bringing back feelings of 16 years old. And it's weird as an adult having those feelings because I actually feel bad for the guy that made those death threats. I feel bad for him because I looked at his Facebook and I looked at who he was, and it's clear to me that he has some mental health issues. So I pity him, and I hope that he gets the help he needs, but that doesn't stop me from being afraid. Hi, my name's Paul Liller. I present the character of Demetria Blackwell, a loud and boisterous drag queen. I identify as a male. My pronouns are him and his and he. I grew up in Maryland, just outside of Oakland, like up on the top of a hill in the middle of nowhere. When I came out to my biological family, I was 15, 16. And they took it hard for the first couple of days. And then they realized we raised him okay. He's going to be okay. And they accepted me. We actually sued my high school because when I was growing up, when I was in high school, I came out and was treated very, very poorly. I mean, I was bullied terribly. And my mom and I went to the principal to ask for help. And she had this big, big desk. And my mom's a short lady. She's like 4'9". And mom was crying, and mom was like, please do something. We need your help. I'm worried about my son. I found him crying in the bathroom at 3 a.m. I think he might try to kill himself. I'm worried about him. And the principal looks at my mom, and then she looks at me and she says, Paul, are you gay? And I said, yes. And she looks back at my mom and she says, Sadie, what do you expect me to do? That's how people treat them. He's bringing it on himself. This was a principal of a public high school, which is what led to my mom diving over the desk after her. Thank God she didn't get her. And, and so we left there and went to a lawyer's office, and we sued the high school. The optimist in me wanted to take it all over the world and make it so that people weren't treated that way. The realist in me saw what it was doing to my parents, and we just decided to settle because I was afraid that between their health and the crazy people that were doing things, that it was bad. And the day of graduation, I walked across the stage, I got my diploma, I shook that principal's hand, even though I just wanted to push her off that stage. And I walked off, and I got in the car, and we went to Baltimore, and there I stayed. And life was drastically different. There were Black people, there were white people, there were Asian people, there were Hispanic people, there were gay people, there were straight people, there were people of every possible imagination that you could think of. And here I am, this little country boy that was so excited, but I didn't understand. And so, you see things on TV, but it wasn't until I was in 11th grade that somebody that wasn't white was even in my school. And so now I'm immersed in this culture, and it took me a couple weeks to understand everything and realize what was right and what was wrong, but man, I thrived, and it was so amazing. I first learned about drag when I was living in Baltimore. It's funny, I used to be afraid of drag queens. There were several bars that did drag shows, the biggest being Club Hippo. And so I would always avoid the drag show nights because, again, I thought they were kind of like scary clowns. But I worked for a catering company, and some of my staff talked me into, it was more of a dare, entering this amateur drag competition. So the girls went with me after work, and we went shopping, and I bought, I don't know, $400 worth of stuff. And so I went and did this competition, and wow, I looked ugly. Whew, it was bad. And I won the competition. When I did that first show, I thought that's it. It was a $400 fun night. We've all made bad decisions with money before, whatever. I didn't know that I would have to come back the next month and perform as the winner of the previous month. So I was like, man, okay, we'll do this one more time and that's it. So I went back and did the next one. And then I found out that we had to come back at the end of the year and all of the 12 winners had to compete against each other. Great. Now I'm in again. And then at the end of that show, I was approached by this tall, bald person who, for a guy, just kind of glided across the floor and approached me and said, "Hi, I'm Erica Meadows. I'm one of the drag queens here, and I see what you're doing. And you're a mess, but I like what you have to offer. I want to help you." So it was the first time in a long time that somebody had seen potential in me. I was in an abusive relationship. My boyfriend was beating me up weekly. It was bad. The Hippo was the place to do drag in Baltimore. It was the best, biggest place to be. And I was very, very lucky because most people don't get to start there. And so it excited me. And suddenly I thought, for the first time in years, maybe I'm worth something. Maybe this is a cool thing. And so over the next month, Erica introduced me to 5 or 6 drag queens. So I started remaking friendships that I had lost because I was in such a bad relationship. And drag just snuck into my heart. I don't know how it happened. I don't know when it happened. It just kind of did. One time I had come in to the Hippo for a show and I was sitting in front of the mirror and I had had a footprint bruise on my shoulder from where Josh had kicked me. And so Erica came gliding down and saw a bruise on my shoulder and she came over to me and she said, "What is that?" And I hurried up and pulled my robe up over my shoulder and said, "It's nothing, it's nothing." And just about that time, Josh came downstairs and was going to, I don't know, talk to me, get money, whatever he did. And Erica didn't glide this time. It was the only time I've ever seen her not glide. She went straight over to him and grabbed him by the neck and said, "If you ever touch her again, I'll kill you." Then Erica passed away from cancer a couple of months later. We didn't know until it was too late that she had cancer and that she had been, we didn't know that the reason she was bald was that she was going through chemo or that her really great tan wasn't really a great tan. And so shortly after she died, Josh and I broke up. We had had one big bad fight and I sent him away. And so many drag queens were at my house for 2 months. I had to kick them all out at the end. They just flocked in like birds and they cooked for me and they cleaned for me and they forced me to get up and go to work and they forced me to walk the dog and all of the things that when you go through that you don't want to do. And I knew more than ever that drag in one way or another would always be a part of my life. The art of drag really is no different than acting. It's singing or dancing or acting or modeling. It's a whole bunch of visual art all rolled into one. And if people understood that, my grandmother, before she passed away, at first she didn't understand drag. I was always very, very close with my grandmother. And every time I would talk to her about it, she's like, "You just want to be a woman. Why don't you just go be a woman?" And I explained to her, I said, "Grandma, I don't want to be a woman. I have no desire to, I don't feel like a woman. I'm not a woman. Drag is a performance. I get to reach out to people. I get to do what I love to do. It's great." And I explained to her what was going on. And she came to a show and she loved it and she understood. And so then from then on out, she had a picture of me in drag in her living room and she loved my drag friends. There was one drag queen friend of mine, Tsunami from Baltimore. And my grandmother was from the sticks. She couldn't pronounce things very well and she was a little goofy. And she always called her Salami, like the meat. And they were just inseparable. They loved each other. And so, I just feel like if my grandmother can learn about drag and be okay with it, anybody can. And it's really not what some people think it is. The feeling on stage of being Demetria is a lot of things. I've never, thankfully, gotten nervous. Never been nervous. For me, the feeling starts the minute I start doing makeup. Makeup is my favorite part of drag. I love how makeup becomes a mask, and it can completely change who you are, all with just a little bit of grease paint. A lot of grease paint and a paint roller. But, you know, you start becoming this other person, and you start getting into the character. And, you know, Demetria is so bold and so unapologetic. She's just there, and you know she's there. And she might be as big as a barn, but she's pretty. She knows she's pretty, and she's not afraid to tell you she's pretty. And, you know, it's the complete opposite of Paul. You know, I struggle with my image. I struggle with my weight. I struggle with everything every day. I have this amazing, beautiful fiance, and every day I think, man, he could do so much better than me. And so Demetria takes me away from all of that. And Demetria is this strength. And when I step on stage, everyone's watching me, and I'm being seen, and I have their attention. And at first, when I first started, I didn't think about what that meant. I just got drunk in the idea of, wow, everybody likes me and is paying attention to me. And so over the years, as I've matured with drag, and I've come to accept what power I have when I'm there, I realized that my performances every now and then need to mean something. When we first got the first threats, before we canceled, when people first started coming out against us, I did a performance, and it was probably the hardest performance I've ever done. I had a news clip from the TV station that did the interview about Drag Queen Storytime that I didn't really care for. They interviewed some random girl and didn't really ask us for any comment or didn't get involved in any way. And then I went into Higher Love by Whitney Houston and Kygo. I had this big white draped costume where I had all of the insults that we'd been called written all over it. Pedophile, slut, whore, faggot, all of these awful names. And I started doing this song. And then as the song progressed, the white cover-up ripped away, and I had this beautiful gold and black gown on. And it was symbolic to saying, you can say what you want, but I'm still gonna stand here. You know, while I still get that butterfly feeling of everybody listening to me and seeing me, it's just so important to make a difference. And it's just so important to be able to be there for other people through my performances. It's funny, the older I get, it's less about the theatrics now and more about the family that I've built and giving back to the community that I've been a part of. It's passing it on. I like still being able to help new people. You know, I love Vice Versa does a baby shower where they bring in new kids every year that want to start doing drag, and I'm always a part of it because I love seeing people find that spark and seeing them fall in love with being able to express themselves. So I came to Morgantown about a year and a half ago. So one of my drag kids messaged me. He was in pharmacy school and he needed some help with being able to stay in his apartment because his ex had moved out. He didn't have anybody helping with the rent, whatever. I hadn't lived with anybody other than a boyfriend in 10 years. So that was an adjustment. But I did it. I was like, fine, I'll come to Morgantown. I'll help you. That's what family does. I was already working at Vice off and on. I'd already been Miss Vice Versa. So then my role at Vice became much more active when I was here. When we had the Drag Queen Storytime planned, Robin and I were going to be in a very safe position. We were going to go in through the back door. We were going to go out through the back door. Nobody was ever going to see us. We were going to be in an unmarked car. We were going to be on the basement level with a cop near us. So nothing was going to happen to us. But we canceled the event because we were afraid that somebody who was mentally ill, and I believe in my heart of hearts that all of these shootings really stem from mental illness. And, you know, you can't account for it. Would they drive the car in through the window of the library? I don't know. Would they go in and shoot? I don't know. You never know. And these are kids. These are the future of the world. And I don't want to be attached to something where kids could be hurt. I'm not afraid to stand up for what I believe in. I will always do that. I may have fear of what may happen. I may have fear in my heart of, I don't want to get shot. I'm happy. I'm in love. I'm getting married. I want to live my life. But that's not going to stop me from standing up. And so canceling the event was really about saving the lives of those children that could be at risk. And nothing happened. They had a rally. Nothing bad happened. I was so thankful. But to me, it wasn't worth the risk. There was a shooting outside Vice this weekend that had nothing to do with Vice. It was some people from another bar and the guy got shot in the arm, whatever. And it was after the bar closed. And when Ryan, the bar manager, found out what happened, and he locked the doors and he came running up and said, nobody move. There was a shooting outside. I immediately, my heart sunk and I was like, they're coming after me. It had nothing to do with me. And I guess deep down I knew that, but the fear was still there. And so it's hard to kind of manage those things where the adult in me understands the mental health aspect of it and makes me pity this guy. But the human being in me that just wants my life back gets so angry because am I going to always have this fear now? At the end of the day, all we all want is to just be a person. I'll be so happy when gay marriage isn't a thing. It's just marriage. Or interracial marriage isn't a thing because they're just married. Or when, all of these labels just start to fall away, when it's not my black friend this or my gay friend that, when it's just my friend. Because at the end of the day, no matter what our experiences are, we're all just human beings trying to live life and go through life and find happiness. And we all may have different challenges, but we all have the same bumps in the road. We all have the same good and bad high points in our lives and low points in our lives. And just having kindness for one another can change that and can make the world truly a better place.